Their lack of closure is your closure. It's not the closure that you want, but it is your closure. If you've been abruptly broken up with or discarded by an avoidant, or maybe they slow faded out on you, they likely never gave you that closure conversation. They never really told you why they were exiting the relationship. At best, you got vagueness. I've just lost feelings. The spark is gone. I don't know. I just don't see a future with you. And the harder you press, the more I don't knows they give you. And they shut down and sometimes even ghost you altogether. And your heart is shattered. You just want answers. The human mind likes certainty. Uncertainty creates anxiety. And even if it's something that you don't want to be certain about, like closure on ending a relationship that you didn't want to end, that conversation, that closure gives you that sense of certainty, which helps reduce anxiety. But when you're dealing with a dismissive avoidant or a fearful avoidant that leans heavily dismissive, you're dealing with a person that has a very limited capacity when it comes to emotions and self-reflection. This is a person that was on the receiving end of consistent childhood emotional neglect, growing up in households where you don't talk about feelings, and when they did try to express their feelings, it was rejected, dismissed. Sometimes they were even reprimanded for having emotions. So they learned to stuff it, and they developed this deep wound of shame, feeling like they're defective and not lovable because they personalize that neglect. So they learn to internalize everything and to try to suppress and detach from their emotions as a way to stay safe. This means they developed a lot of insecurities based off of that. And normal, healthy relationship behaviors trigger them. The one that triggers them the most is emotional closeness. It feels overwhelming, the vulnerability and the intimacy. It triggers every nerve in their limbic system. It's on fire with anxiety when things are getting too close, when there's expectations on them, or especially any kind of conflict or heavy emotions. So the way they learn to preserve themselves is to shut down and detach, which is why suddenly they're cold, they're not giving you any answers, and that's because they've completely deactivated and stuffed their feelings. The problem is many severe dismissive avoidants also experience alexithymia, which is the inability to understand and recognize their own emotions as well as the emotions in others. They just don't have the capacity there. They were never shown how to process emotions. They were never shown how to work through stress and anxiety. They had to figure it out on their own, and what they learned to do is stuff it and avoid it. So you're pressing for answers. You're looking for someone to self-reflect on why they did what they did when they themselves don't even know. They just felt the strong urge to leave, like they had to leave. Think about it this way. If you have a strong urge to run away from a relationship, but you refuse to look within and you refuse to analyze why, how can you possibly articulate it to the other person? You can't. And someone pressing you to do so is only going to give more anxiety, and you're going to run away further. So essentially, you are wanting answers from a person that doesn't even have the capacity to give them to you and is triggered by your desire for it. So understand, you're dealing with a person that does not have the emotional capacity or the desire to actually have that deep conversation and give closure and self-reflect in the way that you need them to. It's a difference in emotional maturity and emotional self-awareness. If you're looking for a deep relationship where they can be vulnerable with you and you can be vulnerable with them and have that true emotional intimacy, what they've shown you is they are not that person. They do not have that capacity. Their lack of closure tells you everything you need to know, because it also involves a lack of empathy. Due to that emotional neglect, they learn to really only focus on themselves and their own perceived needs. So considering your feelings in the whole process was never part of it. So all of that, that's the answers you needed. That's the closure you got. This person is not capable of being the partner that you want, and they're not capable of being the partner you deserve. Can they work on that? Sure, but you can't force them. As of right now, they've shown you they're not your person. Believe them.